Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar. I'm super excited to have you on. My name is Kay Huff, and I will be your BenCo host for this afternoon. I am beyond excited to introduce BenCo's new webinar series, Gateway 2021, Closing the Bridge in Dentistry. So with that being said, let's start off with a few housekeeping rules. Number one is the CE guidelines. Each person that wants to receive a CE must sign in their legal name. What I mean by that, the name that's on your license. Also, each person that wants to receive CEs has to be logged on to their own device in order to be able to receive those CEs, and you need to be logged on for the entire hour. Also, if you're signing in on your phone, and what I mean by that is actually dialing in and listening with a phone number, we can only see your number. So what I'll need you to do is send in your name, your telephone number, and the name of today's course, and we will cross-match those and be able to actually send you your CEs. So please make sure that you email those to practicecoaching@benco.com. Again, that's practicecoaching@benco.com. Also very important, at the end of the webinar, you will receive a survey. Please make sure you fill that survey out. We at BenCo really want to know what you want to hear about, what's out there that would help you and your practice move forward. And we want to make sure we bring those speakers on for you. Also, you'll notice at the very bottom, there's a Q&A. Please make sure if you think of some questions during the webinar that you enter those questions into the Q&A. And then our speakers will come on at the end of the webinar and answer those questions live. I think I've gone over everything. I'm super excited to have everybody back. It feels good to be back in the saddle. I'm so happy. So my favorite part of the webinar, of course. So let's get started. I'm honored to introduce one of the most outstanding managers or leaders in the dental field today, one of the managing directors at BenCo Dental, Chuck Cohen. Hey, Chuck. You're on mute, Chuck.
I'm that guy on mute. Hi, everybody. Welcome to 2021. We're glad you're here, and we are so pleased to be kicking off our 2021 curriculum with one of the most interesting and exciting programs that we've had. You may remember, some of you may remember that in 2020, one of our most successful programs was a program on cybersecurity issues in a dental practice with Debbie Carr, who is one of the foremost experts in our industry on the issues around cybersecurity. She and I talked before, and we both agree that dental offices across the United States are vulnerable to cybersecurity, a lot because they have a lot of private data on their servers, and oftentimes don't have the right protections because they don't have the protections some of the larger companies do. So we're very pleased tonight to have two experts speaking with us. One is Debbie Carr, and I'll tell you a little bit about her in a second. And the other one is Ryan Rinaldi, who runs BenCo's software and security division. So he'll be joining us a little bit later. But Debbie is recognized as a leader in cybersecurity and compliance. She's a crisis management consultant, AKA she's the person you call after you've been hacked. I'm sure it's not the most fun part of her job, but it is where she probably provides the most value. Although I'm sure she'd rather talk to you before you get hacked than after. And she'll talk to you a little bit about that. She has some very amazing stories to tell. She assists private practices across the United States in obtaining and maintaining security. And she performs risk analysis, team security training. She assists doctors on navigating through ransomware and other cyber attacks. She has many certificates, healthcare information security and privacy practitioner, certified associate healthcare information and management systems, and is a member of a variety of dental and cybersecurity organizations. With that, very pleased to turn things over this evening to Debbie Carr, one of the highest rated speakers we had last year. Debbie, thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for sharing your information with us.
Thank you so much, Chuck, for having me and for launching your 21 program with security. I'm so excited. A little bit about me, we've done that. Disclaimers, so we are all legal. I have no relevant financial relationship nor any commercial support with BenCo. And this information is provided, it's not intended to provide legal information It's for general information purposes only. 2020. Oh my goodness, what a year. We started off like gangbusters, and then all of a sudden everything just halted, everything just shut down. And there was one group of people that while we were all shut down, they were having a wonderful time. And that group is hackers. We saw an increase in attacks throughout the year. It was just phenomenal. The amount of attacks, just in the last 2 months, we saw an increase in cyber attacks, 75%. But I dealt with them all year with doctors that were closed and having to be told that by companies that their business associates that they may have been hacked. So it was quite a year for that. We are seeing threats come in from countries that don't like us very much right now, and there's just been such an uptick of these attacks, and it's phenomenal the way that they're doing it, the attacks that we're seeing. And it used to be that we were seeing attacks that they just wanted Bitcoin, they just wanted money. But now we're seeing where they are posting patient information on the internet. And this has dire ramifications for practices. Just between October 25th and November 25th, there were 5 dental practices that had to report to OCR because their data was exfiltrated and posted. These threat actors are getting very sophisticated. Bitcoin is at it actually has come down. It was at 40,000 Monday, but I think it's down to like 30,000 now, but still they're asking 3 to 5 Bitcoins at 30,000 a Bitcoin. That is quite an expense. And now there's new rules that if you pay the Bitcoin, you actually are part of, can be held criminally in the United States for aiding and abetting state-sponsored attacks. So there's a lot going on, but one thing that I'm excited about is some of the new changes that have come about. But let me start by saying this: in cybersecurity, everything we do works within what we call the CIA triangle. We want our information to be confidential. We want to keep our information private. We want to keep it secure. And we want it to maintain its integrity. We don't want it to be falsified. There's so much going on with misinformation right now. We want our information that we have to be correct and to be maintain its integrity. And of course, we want it to be available when we need it. So think about this. Think about the maintaining that triangle as if it's a wallet or a triangle. So what's in your triangle? Well, for a lot of us, most of us, probably our social security number falls there. I know I'm getting close to that, and I want it to maintain its confidentiality. I don't want somebody using it. I want it to maintain its integrity. I don't want to wind up like Jay Leno, where somebody gets my social security before I do. And of course, I want it to be available when I need it, when I want it. Sorry, there's something going on downstairs. And we want, what about our financial information? We want our financial information to maintain its integrity. We want it to be accurate. And what about our patient information? Of course, we want our patient information to be accurate. Our patients, when they give us their information, they are trusting that we're going to maintain their privacy, and they're trusting us. And that way, when we say that they need treatment, because that trust is established, we're able to follow through. So we don't want to break that chain of trust. We want to maintain that trust. So anything that we put in our triangle, we call it information or data. And so our data is information. That's the definition of it. What I'm really excited about is that in January, a new bill went into effect that says that if a practice or a healthcare entity is following this cybersecurity framework or another NIST framework, and from the cybersecurity makes the most sense and it aligns with HIPAA perfectly. I've been doing this framework with my clients for the last 6 years since it came out. There's no penalties. It's a safe harbor. It's just like encryption is a safe harbor. Now, having a cybersecurity framework in your practice is also considered a safe harbor. And the best news is it doesn't have to cost a fortune, but it does take some time, and it does mean making sure that you have the right things in place. So we're going to go through those things. So the first thing is identify. We need to identify where our information is created, transmitted, and stored. And what information do we want to put into our triangle? For those of you that were on the last call, you probably remember Chris talking about the fact that we had her patient data. What we did not have was her practice-specific data. So often, doctors put all the emphasis on backing up and taking care of the practice management, but there's other processes that are just as critical to the business of dentistry and to the business that you're operating, such as your financial records, such as QuickBooks, or I don't know if anybody's using Peachtree anymore, but your financial records, your payroll, if you can't meet payroll. So it's identifying the processes that are important. And I believe that, I know I sent it to Kay, I believe that there is a handout for everyone on how to do a business impact analysis. And what that is where you identify all of your processes. So you start with your building and you've got a landlord, you've got to pay the electric bill or water bill, all the processes that you have to go through in order to operate. And I encourage you to get your team involved, because you'll find that there's processes that they're using that you're not aware of and that you may not like. I had a doctor, this was actually a medical practice, that the referring position, she was using a free version of Dropbox to keep all of her patients' referrals in, and this was a pediatric practice. Well, it just so happened that Dropbox had been hacked twice while that information was up there. And so there was some ramifications that came along with it. So knowing what your processes are, identifying where they are created, where they are transmitted, where they are stored. You should do a data flow map of all your processes. Know the process, how your patient information flows through your office, where it's created. So your front desk is creating it, but how did they get there? Did your website, through your website, now you've got a web provider, that may be a business associate, what information's being collected. So know what information's there. We are responsible for protecting our patients' information, past, present, and future. So if a patient is filling out a little contact information on your website, that is an indication that they intend to be a future patient. So you still have to protect that information, even though it should be very limited, but you still have to protect that information. We also want to identify risk. We want to know what vulnerabilities exist that, if they were exploited, could have adverse reaction or adversely impact the practice, either financially and or reputationally. I mentioned there was just in 1 month, 5 dentists that had to report to OCR. Now it'll take a while before OCR investigates those events and those incidents, but every one of them were due to hacking. So what we're seeing is the average time that a hacker is sitting in a network for 2020 was right around 207 days. I can tell you personally, my clients, we've seen where the threat actor, which is what we call a hacker, threat actor or a TA, sits in the system for anywhere from 45 to 210 days. And then once they launch the malicious code, and what are they doing in that system for 210 days? What are they doing? They are doing recognizance. They are looking around. In some cases, they have launched what we call a keylogger. They're monitoring every keystroke so that they're able to get your passwords and your credentials. This is why I always recommend to my clients that you have different passwords for every device. And when I say device, your firewall should have one password, your server should have another password, your switch and routers should have another password, your cameras should have another password and be subnetted. But they're looking for the credentials, because if they can get the credentials, then they're home free. And how long, once they launch, how long does it take to recover? The average is 73 days. In reality, it's 6 to 8 weeks of trying to produce in a handicapped way. Part of what we try to do when we're called in is to try to set up a temporary situation so that doctors can resume production, because we know that is our business. We're in the business of dentistry, and so we need to get back to business as quickly as possible. But there's steps that have to be taken, and we'll get to that. But so once we've identified where our information is created, transmitted, or stored, we need to protect that information. HIPAA has 3 areas that it looks at. We have the administrative controls, we have the physical controls, and we have the technical controls. Most of the emphasis is going to be on those administrative controls, and that is practice specific and can only be done in the practice. An IT company, an alarm company cannot do that for you. They cannot make you HIPAA compliant, because it's how you handle patient information and secure patient information in your practice. What I see in one practice may be totally different in another practice. So the first thing is, how do we physically protect that information? I was in a practice recently where the server is in the break room right next to the back door, sitting on a cardboard box. Now, to a lot of people and to the doctor, that wasn't a big deal, but the area has somewhat of a crime issue. So if somebody tries to break in that back door, the first thing that they're going to see is the server. And it sits next to a refrigerator that has an ice maker. So if that for some reason starts leaking and the cardboard box gets wet, then this server is going to wind up on the floor and physically crashing. Then we have the issue where all employees have access to it, and all the delivery people coming in and out. And we want to believe that most people are honest, and most people are. It's the one bad apple that we have to guard against. And I can tell you, a disgruntled employee can cause a lot of problems. So having your server secure in a locked closet is the ideal situation. But in that particular case, since they didn't have the ability to build out a locked closet, we recommended that they get a locked server cage and get it off of the cardboard box. Policies. Policies are the written rules for your practice. I was in a practice today and I asked the front desk people, how do you send records when a patient requests the records? 3 front desk people, 3 different answers. And the doctor did not have a clue at all how they were doing it. And none of what they were doing was what she wanted. But this is why those policies are so important. How do you want things handled in your practice? How do you want records released? I have some doctors that allow the front desk to just release the records. I have some doctors that they want to know that the patient is requesting their records so that they can call them and maybe have a discussion. But this is practice specific. And how are you wanting that information handled in your practice? And then once you establish that, it's important to train your staff, train your team. One thing that we see with HIPAA, every practice knows that they have to do annual HIPAA training. But the CSF, the cybersecurity framework, takes that further. It says that you should be constantly training your employees, training your team, because policies are forever changing and security rules are forever changing. And there's a lot of rules and a lot of policies that we want to implement. So a constant training on those policies is key to having our team be on the same page. That's what's important, is we want everybody to be on the same page and we want them to do things the way that we want them to do. What I recommend to my clients is that you take a policy a week or a policy a month and you train on that policy in your morning huddles and at your staff meetings. And the way that I recommend that you do this is that you write out the policy, you print the policy, you review the policy with your team during your morning huddle, and then you have all of your team members sign for a whole week that they heard, do not share your passwords, do not post your passwords, and do not hide your passwords under your keyboard. Have them sign and put that in your documentation that you trained on that policy. Because that way, when the employee comes back and says, well, nobody ever told me I could not put my password under my keyboard. Yes, we did. Here's where you were trained. There are several lawsuits that are going right now about employees saying nobody ever told me. And of course, we're monitoring those very closely, but let's just avoid those issues. The cybersecurity framework says constant training in security matters. I also recommend that you put signs. I have signs that I give my clients where they can put them. I have one client that actually puts them in the staff bathroom on the back of the wall so that they all see them. Don't share your passwords. Don't use our computers for any purpose other than business purposes. A different signage reminding them about security. Another safeguard is encryption of the server. It used to be that encryption of the server was very expensive. With server 12 and above, it's a flip of the switch. So what we're seeing now is regulation through legislation kind of thing. Because it's so easy to do, if you haven't done it, they come down harder because they see it as neglect. So we've identified what our data is, what's important, our information, and don't forget your cell phones. So often we have information on our cell phones that we want to keep in that triangle, that we want to maintain triangle, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So make sure that you're looking at all facets, not just your business, but your personal as well. Almost everything that I'm going to talk about tonight can be scaled to doing in your home as well. Where is your birth certificate? Where is your passport? Where is your social security card? Your bank information kept. So we've identified, we've protected, now we need to detect. In order to properly detect, you need to have a partner. And I believe that Ryan is going to touch on this in a few minutes. You need to have a partner that can monitor the activity on your network. Monitor the activity that your users are doing because you've assigned your users unique credentials into the information system. It doesn't say into Eaglesoft or Dentra. It says into the information system. This is for several reasons. One, it gives the practice the ability to know who is doing what. That way, unfortunately, we do see this happen in dentistry where we see embezzlement. But if everyone has a unique user into the information system, we're able to know exactly who is doing what. Monitor those activities, security logs, your firewall logs. All that information should be monitored 24/7. It takes special software to do that. And that software is expensive for a practice to do. But if you've got an IT partner, and I say partner because it needs to be someone that you have a relationship with, and we're going to get into that in just a minute, but you want to have a partner that's monitoring it. They can afford that software because they are spreading the cost of that software out amongst all of their clients. So it's not quite as expensive. So get an IT partner. Get one of the policies, or one of the parts of the CSF is having configuration management and change management policies. We're so quick to add things onto our practice. That's shiny technology. I remember when Cerex came out, there was so many doctors that wanted those Cerex. With everyone going home in 2020, we saw a lot of ransomware happening at home because people were using a free product that comes with Windows called Remote Desktop. Remote Desktop has known vulnerabilities that hackers love because they can walk on through that door and they're in your system, and there's not a lot you can do unless you're monitoring the activity and know what's happening. And almost in every case that has where a hacker has been in a system for a long time, it was because no one was monitoring the activity. I had one practice where 3 threat actors got into the system, and they made, between the 3, they made 15 administrative accounts. So one thing to combat that, what I always recommend to my clients is that doctors should have 2 user accounts. They should have the administrative privileges that they need occasionally, but they should have a user account as well. And the day-to-day processes that they do of logging into their computers should use that user account that does not have admin privileges. That way, if a threat actor gets those credentials, they're going to be limited on what they can do because they're not going to have the administrative privileges that an administrative account would have. So I always recommend to do that. So we've identified our data, we've protected our data, and we've detected what's going on. The next thing, sadly, we may have to respond to some sort of an attack or some sort of an incident. Now, it could be a ransomware attack, and of course, that's what I focus on. But it could be something like pipes rupturing, or it could be handing the wrong walkout statement. I've actually seen a situation where a patient got the wrong walkout statement and reported that doctor. And it caused about 10 days of loss of production, all because there was not a process and policy in place for the front desk to double check the walkout statement with the patient before handing it off. So having those processes and those policies in place can go a long way. But how do you respond to an attack? It's important to have those procedures in place. So what I saw, first of all, anytime there is a ransomware attack, it is on the practice to do an investigation. This is part of HIPAA. You must do an investigation to determine who gained access to your information and what is the probability that they could use or misuse that information to harm one or more people. Of course, if it's a ransomware attack, then you have all of your patient base is compromised, and that can add up, especially if you've been in practice for a long time. So it's on the practice to conduct a forensic investigation, and this is where having a plan in place is so critical. Most cybersecurity policies that are out there right now have a set of contracted individuals or contracted companies for their attorneys and for their forensic team when an attack happens. I had an instance where the IT company did not know any of that. The threat, the ransomware hit, the IT company A went in and started deleting everything that was on the server. So now he's corrupted a crime scene. When an attack happens, you have to preserve the crime scene. So you unplug from the internet so that the threat actor cannot do any more damage. So usually it's a cord, we call it a Cat5, Cat6 cord or an Ethernet cord. It's on the back of your server. Just unplug it or unplug from the modem, it's Comcast box that's coming in, but preserve the crime scene, because a forensic team is going to need to review what the state of your devices were at the time of encryption, so that we can do two things. One, we want to determine, most of all, how and what information was compromised, and is there a danger of it being misused. The last thing you want to have happen is like what happened to a practice here in Florida, where they found out that their information was on the internet when the FBI walked through their doors and informed them of such a thing. So trying to skirt it in this environment is just not going to happen, because these threat actors aren't even using the dark web. They are posting on to regular internet sites now. So you want to preserve that crime scene. The next thing that we need to do is that contact the insurance company, but you've got to use their teams. This IT company hired somebody that he used, and one, the insurance company didn't pay for it. Two, they were not a true forensic team. And so we wound up having to go get a true forensic team that could give us a detailed report as to what exactly happened. Because the second thing we want to do is we want to know how that threat actor got in, so that we can make sure that that door is closed and he doesn't get in again and he doesn't keep coming in. So how we respond is key. And then we want to recover. We want to be able to resume production as quickly as possible. And how do we do that? Backup, 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 backup. I cannot emphasize backup enough. Redundancy and backup. What I've started recommending to my clients is that once a month, even though their IT partner is backing up their data daily to a NAS unit, a Datto, a VDR on site, and it's usually backing up hourly, and they can backdate. They're also shooting it up to the cloud every night, which the cloud, by the way, is a big server somewhere. That does not alleviate you from being HIPAA compliant. But what we're seeing is threat actors are getting into systems and they're deleting the backup. I had one practice that was using Carbonite, and they completely deleted the entire Carbonite account. Fortunately, we were able to do some maneuvering and was able to get the data back. But it's knowing that information. So having a backup, a full system backup, taken on an external drive, placed securely in a locked drawer somewhere in the practice is key. I would rather see a practice lose a couple of days, a month of data versus 30 years of data. And I've had to tell doctors, you've got 20, 30 years of your data is gone, and there's no way I can get it back. And that was after they paid the ransom, and the threat actors just laughed at them and said, no way, they're not giving it back. So we want to be able to recover. It becomes a circle. So we identify, we protect, we detect, we respond, we recover, we identify, because now we've had to recover. We want to identify what changes we need to make so that we can continue protecting, so that we can detect, respond, recover. It's a circle. It's a process that we want to keep going. Insurance, cyber insurance, I'm highly recommending that you get cyber insurance, but one of the first questions they're going to ask you is if you are HIPAA compliant. If you have not conducted a risk analysis within the last 12 months, you are not HIPAA compliant, nor are you going to be able to meet the new safeguard that went into effect with the cybersecurity framework. The cybersecurity framework is going to weigh heavily on what your documentation is and what was your security posture for the last 12 to 18 months. So if you've not conducted a risk analysis in the last 12 months, you are not considered HIPAA compliant, and you definitely will not be able to meet the CSF framework, because you've got to have all these things in place. And I can't, in 45 minutes, I can't tell you the whole program. I can just give you the high level of it. I do recommend that you get cyber insurance. Just beware of that. I have had several cases where the doctor had cyber insurance when the actual claim happened. Because the doctor could not produce a risk analysis, there was no benefit. So just know that that's a fact. But when back in April, what I was seeing, the average cost for a threat for a ransomware attack was right around, forensic teams were right around 12.5, 13.5. I think I had one at 15.5. And the attorney's fees, and you have to have an attorney to represent you. They were right around 6,000. So it wasn't that bad. The events that I've had in November and December, I'm looking at 33.5 for one of them, 38.5 for another for the forensic team, and the attorney fees are up to like 15,000. So because the work is so much, they're able to charge so much. So having those coverages, you also want to have coverages to recover. That's been a big thing where these doctors have had a little bit of benefit for forensics and for attorneys, but it did not help to offset the cost of recovering. And that cost is expensive, because once a ransomware attack happens, you have to replace, at minimum, you should replace every hard drive and every computer that is in your office. That's the best protocol. The next best thing would be to completely wipe them down to bare metal and then rebuild, reconfigure, but that takes time. So either way, there's a cost involved, because you have to completely wipe the drive, and your IT partner has to come in and completely rebuild your network, because we don't know exactly where they're hiding in the network. And again, these threat actors are getting very, very, very sophisticated. So where do we find the general outline for everything that I've gone through? It's in this wonderful regulation that we need to stop looking at as regulation and look at it as a tool, and that is the HIPAA high-tech rule. The omnibus rule was changed in 2013, and there's three parts to HIPAA. There is the privacy rule, and that is what we protect. So that's our data. It doesn't matter what the data is. Everything that I'm telling you, for if you're a doctor that accepts credit cards, and I know that you do, you have to adhere to these same rules. It's just a matter of different data in the triangle. Then there is the security rule, and the security rule is how we protect the what. And then we have the breach notification rule, which is the rule we don't want to get to. But if we do, we want to have a plan in place. And it's real important that we have those plans in place. And it's real important that we keep, start working on our security posture, because that's what's going to protect our practices. Compliance will not make you secure. Security, though, will make you compliant. When it's implemented correctly, it will make you fall into compliance just by default. That's why they're using the cybersecurity framework and implementing it and giving it as a safeguard. So if your security posture, if you can demonstrate that you've implemented and that you're using that security framework on a day-to-day basis, then that's a safe harbor. And when you've got a ransomware attack, and I can tell you in every single case that I've had in the last 6 years, every single doctor has looked at me and said, I didn't think it could happen to me. Was there something I could have done differently? I can't believe this is happening to me. I never thought it would happen. And I've had doctors that have been in practice for 1 year. I've had the doctors that have been in practices for 30 years. So let's stop looking at HIPAA's regulation and look at it as a tool for making our practices really secure, because our patients trust us to keep their information secure. So we don't want to breach that trust, because when we tell them that they need work, we want them to follow through with treatment. So it's real important that we maintain that trust that they put in us when they give us their information. So compliance doesn't make you secure. So I want to thank Kay and Chuck again for allowing me to talk on this. For me, it's very exciting because, like I said, I've been using the cybersecurity framework with my clients since it was introduced 5 or 6 years ago. And each year that I go to my clients, we tighten up a little more and we work on it a little more, and we've got them doing things daily and weekly. And it's real exciting for me to see now that that's going to be a safe harbor. If I have a client that is, and so far, knock on wood, I've not had a risk analysis client. That's had an issue. It's always, I've gotten them because they've had an issue and we've done the risk analysis later. So I hope that was informative for everybody. Kay, thank you so much again for inviting me and for letting me kick off your 21 event.
Well, thank you. That was a lot of really good information, and we're not through yet. So Ryan, did you want to go ahead and share your video, your PowerPoint?
Yes, I am right here, Kay.
And I just want to say, guys, the Q&A is open. So please, if you have any questions, Ryan's going to do about a 10-minute presentation, and then they're going to both come back and they're going to be able to answer questions. So please enter in all of your questions in the Q&A below, and we'll leave 10 minutes to go over any questions that you may have. All right, Ryan, go ahead. Thank you so much for being on, Ryan.
Okay, thank you. And Debbie, great presentation, very, very informative, and also very true in the nature that most doctors that we also talk to on the Benko side who have gone through ransomware attacks are always saying, oh, couldn't believe it was, could happen to me. Then you hear about larger attacks, cyber attacks on large companies, whether it's like Target or Experian, and you see those larger opportunities out there for very sophisticated hackers to make money on. And oftentimes, small independent practices think it really can't happen to them. Why would someone want to target me? Well, the reality is, as you said, a lot of dental practices are sitting on gold mines of data. And so, my job, I'll introduce myself here to start off, I guess. My job is I work at Benko Dental with our IT solution, the BenkoNet team. Some of you may have heard of BenkoNet before, but my title is a software solutions manager. I work with all things software solutions for dental practices. That includes practice management software. We work with a great partner in Open Dental, but I also now work on the security side as well. So I'm happy to be with you tonight and walk you through at a high level what we have to offer and how Benko can be a great partner for you as you look to mitigate the risk of something like this happening to you. So tonight, I'm just going to simply walk through some of our offerings. I'm going to start with, again, our BenkoNet offering, which some of you may be familiar with. I'm also going to go into a few different products, and I'm really just going to breeze through those products just to let you know that we have solutions for different areas of need. And then at the end, I'm going to also talk about a newer offering, which I'm really excited about, where we are working to, again, identify vulnerabilities in the dental practice for you. So to start off, Benko has long been in the business of providing support to our customers. We provide customers, support from any size, right? We really can find a solution that fits the size of your practice, even if you have multiple locations. We'd be happy to support you. We support most of the practice management software out there, and nearly all the imaging providers as well. So if you have issues, we are standing by to help you. Most of the time we'll remote in, and we'll help you fix those errors, whether you can having trouble accessing Open Dental, or another program. We can help you. We typically do it over the phone, and then we'll connect to the computer over the internet and walk you through those issues. We are standing by, and we're really excited about this. Now, the current solution that we have is a break fix support. So something breaks, you have an issue, you call us, we're here to help. We are really excited, and stay tuned around March timeframe for a new and improved managed support solution, where essentially we are connected through our software. We're connected to your network, and we're constantly monitoring for what exactly Debbie was mentioning. People on there that might irregularities in your network, and irregular activity, that we can help identify solutions most of the time before you would even know about them. So we're really excited about that. But right now we have a great base of BencoNet customers, and we're working to support them currently. Again, I mentioned most of our support issues are solved through remote connections, right? You have an issue with your practice management software, your imaging software, or maybe a connection from a piece of equipment to your software, and we're able to help you very quickly. We're standing by. And so most of the time, if maybe you're looking at the slide and you're thinking about this other 7%, the other 7% typically makes up of us having to send somebody out in the field. And we have different experts out in the field across the country who are standing by also to help in the event that we do need somebody to go in, to the location physically and fix the issue. So bottom line is that our support team is here. We are we're growing, and we're excited to improve the offering in the coming months. So as Debbie mentioned, security is I think it's more important now than ever. With more and more people working from home, and sometimes more and more people accessing the network remotely, we are seeing that ransomware is popping up more and more. I mentioned earlier that ransomware is making national headlines with larger companies being hacked. But we are also, we're in the dental business. We talk to independent practices on a daily basis, and we've seen it happen to our customers, and it's terrible. Debbie is talking with customers after they've gotten hacked, right? And they're talking about how they can again prevent this from happening down the road. Oftentimes, because of the nature of our business, we're in the supplies business and now the software business. We are talking with doctors before they're getting hacked and then after they're getting hacked, and it's unfortunate, right? And oftentimes, doctors are wondering what they could have done beforehand to prevent this. And so hopefully today, through my presentation and through Debbie's, you've learned something, that this is absolutely an issue, right? If you don't believe us, take it from other doctors as well. So, check out Dental Town, and you'll see that more and more doctors are on there asking other doctors about whether or not they've gone through similar experiences. I mentioned we've worked with doctors who have had this happen before. I have a testimonial from somebody later on in the presentation. This is absolutely an area of concern that you need to pay attention to, and it's important to train your staff on as well. So that's really the basis for the next few slides, which again, I'm going to breeze through just to let you know that we have solutions for your practice. This first solution here is essentially what we consider the first layer of defense, and that's the router. So the router sits between your office and the internet connection. And what's great about our product in Fortinet, and so if you sign up with BencoNet support, we're going to promote you to these products. Because we again, Debbie mentioned that we have to have a trusting relationship between you and your IT provider. And if Benco is going to be your IT provider, we want to do business with companies that we trust as well on your behalf. And we're not doing business with companies that we don't trust. And so we are very excited to be in business with the following companies, and Fortinet's the first. What's interesting about Fortinet is that they have what they call a threat management router. And so again, it sits between your office and the internet. And what it'll do is it will begin to filter out anything that the router can detects as malicious or something that's irregular, right? So if it's detecting activity that's not normal, it will actually raise flags and say, hey, this is not right. And oftentimes it will deflect that entry. So it's absolutely a strong router. We're excited to work with them. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out and let us know. The next layer of the defense is not just, so the router is the first layer. The second layer is the antivirus that you have on your network. We have two solutions. We're a distributor of choice, and we are happy to provide, Viper and Sophos. Viper is reliable protection, right? It's going to do the basic needs that you need it to do to make sure that your practice is safe and that you're fighting off any virus that's trying to penetrate your network, right? Sophos is a newer partner for Benko, and we're just starting to launch this, and it's going to be also part of our managed solution that's launching in March. But this provides endpoint protection, and what endpoint protection typically means is that it sits on your server, and what it'll do is it'll send out nodes to each of the workstations to communicate with those stations. And what it's asking those other workstations is if they identify any irregular activity, it'll detect malware, it'll detect ransomware, and it'll actually start to work to reverse it, right? Obviously, when somebody penetrates the network, it's very, very difficult to reverse, but it will, if it's minor enough, it will work to actually mitigate the risk right then and there. So Sophos is quite an impressive platform. I think by Gartner standards, which is like a company out there that really rates these types of solutions. In their eyes, Sophos is number one. So bottom line is that we have solutions that can help you detect this and detect it quickly. When it comes to communication, right, having access to the internet on your computers is obviously one choice for your practice, but it's also a matter of you have the choice as well as to determining who has the ability to send things in and out of the practice. And when you are sending things in and out of the practice, you want to make sure that that's in a secure fashion. And so we work with a company called Protected Trust that essentially works to provide end-to-end encryption for your email. It integrates with just about any email provider out there, Outlook, Google, the works, and it provides end-to-end encryption so that even the person receiving it, it's still encrypted. It still works to securely, get the information that you're sending to them. And the best part about it is that, again, our clients are dental practices, and we know they're sending large files. You could be even sending 3D files, right? So we have the ability to do that within this platform, within Protected Trust. And like I mentioned, it's very flexible. It will adapt to your current practice. So bottom line, it's a very affordable solution, but a solution that you should absolutely consider if you don't have something already. Debbie mentioned that the last point is backup, right? And making sure that you have, that you're doing what you can to ensure that your data is backed up and secure where it's backed up, and that it's in the worst case scenario that it's recoverable. If you've had a computer in the past, 15 years, you see that you get notifications whether or not it backs up, and that's just on your personal device. At your business, backup needs to be it needs to be top of mind all the time, and you need to be working with a company that knows where the backups are, not just physically, right, but also that they're safe, right? And our backup solutions, we're excited to talk about a few of them today, but they're not only are regulatory requirements about backups that you need to follow, but it's also, again, doing business with the companies that are going to help you in the worst case scenario, recover your data and make sure that your data is secure while you're storing it, in the event that there's no actual incident, right? We want to make sure that your data is backing up on a regular basis anyway. So the first product I want to talk about is IOSafe, and this is essentially an on-site solution that it's an encrypted backup solution. It sits in your practice, and it's built to really be almost indestructible, right? Unless maybe a bomb goes off. But what I will tell you is that, if you do, go through water damage, or you have flooding at your practice, or God forbid there's a fire, this solution will survive, and it will do it, in a very strong fashion. And so you can rest easier at night knowing that IOSafe is backing up your solution on site. We would say that there's a lot of practices out there that might just use the cloud, right? And that's that might seem like that is, that's secure, right? Because it's somewhere else, right? It's up in the cloud, the mysterious cloud. Like Debbie said earlier, if you are using the cloud, it's on somebody else's server somewhere else in some physical location. It's just not in your practice. And so, this is just one step. Typically what we do is we sell IOSafe with Novastore. And Novastore is essentially an offsite data backup. And this will the pairing of the two will provide what we call a hybrid backup, or an on-site and a cloud backup through two separate kind of providers, right? And so I have a little graphic here at the bottom that will show you really what that means, right? We have the network, and you have the backup for the network right there only kind of typically takes the data in your practice, and it really makes sure that everything you have in the backup is secure, right? But also you will have this private cloud backup, which we offer through Novastore. And that's important too, right? And this company does dynamic things to keep their backups secure, right? And they'll keep actual physical location, they'll keep physical backups of your data in different places to make sure that it, God forbid something happens up north in the Northeast, there's another copy down south. And they are dynamic. These companies are dynamic in how they store their data. And most companies these days need to be, because there are very sophisticated people out there that are looking to gain access. But we typically do bundle the IOSafe and the Novastore backup. And that's because we believe that you need to have choice in the worst case scenario. So let's go through a scenario. Let's say you have IOSafe, or let's say you have just a server in let's just say a server in your practice. And that's the reliable server that you think is just fine, right? It's fine right there. If that server dies, and you only have a cloud backup, for example, you're going to have to wait until the provider of the cloud backup sends you a disk to upload into the new server, or you're going to be sitting there waiting for the internet, to download everything from the cloud, which, as you know, there's a lot of data in a dental practice. It will take a very long time. We believe that while on-site data, on-site backups can be restored immediately, you have to think about other scenarios, right? If your server dies in the middle of the day, your afternoon's shot if you don't have a backup server just sitting somewhere, right? And that's where the last product comes in that we offer, and that's DDS Rescue. DDS Rescue essentially works as an on-site and a cloud backup, but it also acts as a server if the main server goes down. So you're not, sitting there waiting to either having to go out and buy another server in the event that your server, craps out. And this will essentially continue your business in a nice, smooth fashion. Whereas if you don't have that, right, you would be sitting there, okay, I gotta go buy another server, come back, and then upload and connect the latest backup to the newest server, right? That's going to take hours, and odds are your afternoon is shot. As you can imagine, because this has extra functionality, you're going to see that DDS Rescue will be more of a premium product. It's going to be a higher price point for you. And I think the question that we would ask at that point, I mentioned earlier that we are a distributor of choice, but if you believe that you want that continuity no matter what, in the worst case scenario, I'm going to pay a higher price now to have this backup, and this backup that also doubles as a server, and not having to go down, not having to say to your afternoon patients, I'm out, sorry, then DDS Rescue might be a solution for you. So again, to recap quickly, we have the support solutions, we have our security, antivirus, we have the encryption services, and of course we have backup solutions for you as well. The last piece that I want to touch on, and I know I'm probably over 10 minutes at this point, I love to talk, is a new offering that Benko is offering. And it is essentially a vulnerability assessment. You can hire us to ethically hack you. We will look into your network and identify vulnerabilities in your network. We will dedicate a hacker who will sit in front of a computer for the entire week trying to find those vulnerabilities for you. And we're going to take note of them, and we're going to let you know what those are. And we're going to tell you what you need to do to remove those vulnerabilities from your practice. The idea here, again, is to correct a few different things. One, it might be to identify a vulnerability through a third party that might have access to your network. That could include your website provider, or even could include a physical, piece of equipment that's set up improperly. But it also is built to identify social engineering issues. And social engineering is essentially, a way for somebody to manipulate their way into your practice and into your network. And oftentimes that happens through phishing emails, right? You've seen, and we've seen a lot of major security incidents start by just a phishing breach, right? And most companies do hire somebody to go out there and uh, essentially try to fish their own employees. And when they fail, they throw them to a training. That is what we're also going to be offering. We're also going to be offering dental practices the ability to test their employees' ability to identify malicious emails, right? Because at least statistically, we see that most ransomware attacks are started by somebody doing something, by human error, by a human clicking on an email they shouldn't be clicking on. And so we're going to be offering that to doctors as well and dental practices across the country. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at Benco. This is a customer testimonial from somebody that we've provided this service for as well. And you could take it not just from me, but from the doctor. This doctor actually went through a ransomware attack a few years ago, paid over $100,000 by the time it was all said and done. And when we went and tested them about 2 months ago, there were actually still some vulnerabilities that we identified. So, there's always something, and you need to be having this proactive dialogue with your team, but also as a business owner, you need to be taking the right measures to making sure that you're mitigating all the risk. So if you have any questions for me, or if you would like more information on our products, feel free to reach out to me at software@benco.com, and I'd be happy to help you. So I know that was a mouthful, but I appreciate your time.
No, Ryan, no, I want to bring you both back so we can definitely go to the Q&A and ask a few questions. So what I'll get you to do, Ryan, is stop sharing your screen, and we'll let Alyssa start pulling up the ending slides while we go over the Q&A. So let me just ask you a few questions. So great presentation by both of you. A lot of really good information. Guys, please keep entering those questions in. One question is how much is the services? Now, I know you both offer a lot of fantastic services. There's not enough there's more dentists than there are enough people that offer this service. So I know we'll get out both of your informations, but is there a range that you would say the fees are?
I think it's going to depend a lot. It's going to depend a lot on the practice and what the needs are and that kind of thing, because it's not a one size fits all. You have to really analyze what's going on.
So, all right. And so the person that asked that question, what I would ask you to do is, we're going to give you the email information. Please reach out to the speakers and find out, what exactly you need, so they'll be able to give you something that's a little bit better. And then the other question is that if you log in from your home computer to your office, should you use a VPN?
Yes.
And are you protected?
With a VPN?
Debbie, I can't hear you.
Yes. You should use a VPN. If you're going to be logging remotely, you should use a VPN. You should use two-factor authentication. Ask your IT partner to help you. Please don't use remote desktop. Use a VPN with two-factor authentication enabled.
Okay, so I didn't quite hear what you said at the end. I heard you say don't use remote backup, and tell me, can you just repeat one more time what you said?
Sure. Use a VPN with two-factor authentication or multiple factor authentication enabled.
Okay, so fantastic. Thank you so much. And then also, Debbie, they asked, this is for you too. Should we be reviewing this with our team members? So should we be going?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It comes down to training. Your team members are the ones that are on the front line. And to back up to what Ryan said, we know that 91% of attacks come through a malicious email. That's where they start. And the reason why the phishing email campaigns are so important is because the frontline team members are the ones that are more apt to click. It's not that they mean to do something, it's an accident. and they click on it, and then they don't tell you because they don't want to get in trouble. So training is key to letting them know that, first of all, if you do that, we understand, we're all human, and to let us know right away. And another thing I wanted to touch on real quick along those lines, that social engineering, a lot of times I hear, oh, we're just dentists, nobody's going to social engineer us. That is not true. Social engineering is how they get the information to send you those emails. They want to know, they look at what you're doing so that they know what emails and how to phrase those emails to get you to click. So it's real important that you be aware and that your team is aware of that. So yes, absolutely, you should share this information with your team on a daily basis.
And Debbie, that's some training that you do, right? You do some of the in-office training also, is that correct?
I do security awareness training in office, but I also work with the doctors and the practice on how to implement a training program.
Fantastic. And then they know that we talked about having certain signs up, but this question is do you have to have the team members sign anything?
I do, because team members forget that we tell them things. And so I like them to sign, just because, one, I'm documenting, because it's all about the documentation. I'm documenting that I trained on it, and these were the people that were there and what the subject was that we trained on. So when someone does something that's out of policy, I can remind them that, remember, we talked about that at Morning Huddle 10 minutes ago, not to push your passwords, post your passwords. And so we have their signatures. So yes, I have them sign that they've gone through training, or that they've.
You probably hit on that, Deb, because both of us have worked in offices, and that is one thing that they do. They share their passwords. Even doctors, I've seen it where they share their password. And if you've done that because you think that, oh, we trust everyone, it's not that. It's really and truly about letting that person be secure. I mean, I wouldn't want anyone else's password. When I go into an office and I work on a computer, I'll say, no, don't give me your password. You type it in for me, because I don't want it. So good point, Deb. I think that was really important. And then are there fines involved, and how much are the fines costing? Like what's an estimated cost for a breach?
So yes, are there fines involved? Yes. If you are not compliant, if you cannot demonstrate that you have met compliancy, you are seen as willful neglect. HIPAA has been around since 1996. So 24 years. You should be compliant by now. So if what OCR does, because I've worked with the auditors, what they do is they look at your situation. They want it to hurt, but they're not going to bankrupt you. They're not in the job, they're not in the position of bankrupting you, but they're going to make it hurt. Now, I have seen fines range from 10,000 to millions, but it's not just HIPAA that we have to worry about. Every state in the union now, and Puerto Rico, all have laws to protect their residents. And there's some states like New York, California, New Jersey, North Carolina, that no matter where the resident is, you have to report to that state. So I have a client that had to report, and we wound up reporting to 5 different states because her patient base had moved over the few years. And so she had to report to 5 different states. That means when you report to those states also get to fine you or to have a say. So it's knowing what your state's privacy laws are and where your patients may have moved to.
Wow, that's different. I've never heard of that. I mean, that's like out of your control too, right? We don't even know what those laws are. So that's amazing. Another question is, can we touch on a cloud-based software pros and cons?
Okay. Cloud-based is a big computer somewhere. It does not remove your responsibility. I hear a lot of times that the cloud provider is going to make us totally HIPAA compliant. We don't have to worry about it. Well, instead of access point, now we have endpoint controls that we need to worry about. And so, I'm going to look at things like, are we whitelisting the IP addresses? Are we blocking them from being able to access things from home. I don't want assistants to be able to access things. So there's different protocols that we would put into place. The other thing with that is that you need to make sure that you have a very strong internet connection, and you need to know and have a good plan, written plan in place for if that business associate, because that's who they are, they're a business associate, if they have a problem. In January of 2019, it was a medical company, EMR, that was compromised. Doctors did not have access to their records for 3 weeks.
Oh, gosh. I think that
You know,
happened
we're
before,
moving,
too, with the doctor.
yeah, we're moving to cloud. There's no doubt about it. And it definitely has its advantages, but we have to do it in a secure way. We have to know who's hosting it. You need to ask questions. And that's the thing. We should not be afraid to ask questions of our business associates. Our business associates have to protect patient information at the same level that the doctor does. So don't trust, but verify, as they say now. Trust your business associate, but don't be afraid to ask them questions. Ask them, when was their last risk analysis? For cloud vendors, where are they hosting it? And what are the obligations? Because if you look at the cloud vendors, there's different platforms. There's platform as a service, there's software as a service. So Dentrix Ascend is considered platform as a application as a service. And then there's infrastructure. So what exactly are they doing? So it's important to ask those questions and to know what they're asking for.
It does remind me of kind of like what we said with our last webinar that we did together. Your client there had gone with a company that she thought was great because they had been referred to her by her dental association, and come to find out that company wasn't that great at all. So be careful about, who you go to. That's why I think going to someone who's big that can back it up is going to be important. Ryan, I wanted to give you an opportunity to also touch on the cloud-based. Did you have anything you want to say on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Debbie summarized it nicely. I mean, I think generally it's still relatively new to dental, right? While we are still very easily backing up our phones to the cloud, I think it's quite different when it's a lot of patient information, right? And large amounts of information. And I've seen customers who are even closer to metropolitan areas who don't have as strong of internet as they thought they did. And they're trying to pull up this patient's chart with this image, and oh, well, hold on there. Okay, just sit in the chair for a few more minutes while we wait for this thing to load. And that's happening more often than I would have even thought. And so there's that. I would say that's one main difference. The other main difference is that like Debbie's saying, you're using somebody else's server space. So inherently it's going to be more expensive. You're going to see cloud practice management software be significantly more expensive because you are paying for somebody else's real estate. Those are the two things I would mention. On a deeper level, I would say that the integration might not be as great. Systems like Open Dental were designed to be open source so that third-party providers can understand the code and design third-party tools that integrate with those providers at a deeper level, and at a level that provides a more efficient workflow for the dental practice. So yes, we are slowly moving, I think, to the cloud. I'd say it's slower for dental than it is for the rest of the type of society.
Great. So we have like 2 more questions. I'd like to be able to 3 more. I'd like to get them all in. So it says, could you please repeat what information we needed to register in order to get the CEU dot TY? Can you please?
I'm assuming that's CE, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that towards the end. So if you need if you called in on your phone and you need to get the registration, all you need to do is email me at practicecoaching@benco.com. Again, that's practicecoaching@benco.com. Email me your name, your cell number, and the name of today's course, and we'll make sure that you get your CEs. So also, really quickly, is LogMeIn acceptable for remote logins?
Yes, with two-factor authentication, yes.
Ryan, you want to take that one?
I think Debbie already answered it.
Oh, Debbie, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yes, with two-factor authentication enabled. Yes, it's a VPN.
Okay, so hopefully they heard that one. And then Ryan, I guess they want to know what the difference is between rolling in Benco Net if you are an existing or a new practice.
It's a good question. Obviously, for new practices, we are going to help you kind of set up the network. Whereas before we would go and assume responsibility for your network, if you're an existing practice, we would conduct a what we call a network, essentially a network assessment to understand how you're set up. Maybe there might be changes that we might make before we go and assume responsibility for it. But it doesn't take very long, and it's a quick and easy process. But yes, that's the only procedural difference. It's a good question, though.
Fantastic. So guys, if we didn't get to all your questions tonight, we will definitely make sure that we respond to those questions, and then we will send them out in a Q&A. Deb, were you going to send any handouts? I didn't know if you were going to send anything about your services or.
I sent you a couple. I sent you the business impact and then the 2 signs.
Did you want to let everyone know what you were sending out to them?
Yes. So the first one is business impact analysis. That is the foundation. It's because you need to identify what information you have, what processes you have. So it gives you an opportunity to go through all of the processes that you have in the practice. I recommend that you have your team members do this as well, and identify where your information is created, transmitted, stored, on what devices. So you're going to be doing inventory. You need to look for the applications, all of it, so that you're able to identify what you need to put in your triangle. And the other one is, the other 2 is a signage for that you can use in your practice for security awareness.
Well, thank you. So guys, you will be receiving those in our email out along with our information in our survey. Again, I think there was 2 callers that did call in on their phone. Please make sure you send me that information that I asked for to practicecoaching@benco.com. Debbie, Ryan, I mean, I can't tell you enough. You blow me away with all the information and knowledge you both have. Deb, I mean, thank you so much. This is the 2nd webinar that you've done with us. Your heart, I can tell, is in this. You really want to make sure that you protect the offices, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Ryan, fantastic work helping Benco get all this aligned. So thank you both very, very much. So with that being said, you want to go ahead, Alyssa, and switch it over? So please make sure you use your cell phones and scan this QR code. This will tell you about our upcoming webinars. It'll give you information. It'll take you to our page. So again, all you have to do is use your cell phones and scan it over, and it will give you all the information you need about our upcoming webinars. Really quickly, on February the 10th, we have a fantastic webinar coming up. If you are really and truly tired of wearing those N95s, at the end of the day, you feel fatigued, wore out, Benco has put together an amazing team that have done a lot of research on reusable masks. Please make sure you attend this free webinar. There's going to be 4 experts on. It's going to be unbelievable. Again, that's February the 10th from 7 to 8 p.m. And then also on February the 24th, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to have a pediatric doctor on, and she's going to be talking about the growth and development of children. So you're not going to want to miss that one either. That's going to be on February the 24th. And I am going to try my best to say this name. Her name is Dr. Anna Melchi, I think is how you say it. Anna Melchi. So hopefully I made you proud, doctor. Anyway, so please make sure you sign up for those free webinars. And then also on this coming Friday, if you need some CE credits for your office for infection control, Dr. Dilapala is going to be doing a 2-hour workshop. It's $49 a person, but I'll tell you, the information that this doctor is going to provide you is unbelievable. So please, if you have someone in your office that needs it, I would recommend at least one person from each office take this workshop. Again, they're going to be giving you a lot of great information that will help keep your office up, compliant, and things you need to know about during the COVID era. So thank you all again. I am so happy to be back on the air with everybody. I absolutely love this. I can't wait to do it in person again, but this is actually, it just fills my day, fills my heart. So again, Ryan, Deb, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I hope everyone enjoys your time with your family, and have a wonderful dinner. Thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.